Begin this hour in Washington, where the suspense is building over the pending release of the Mueller report, expected sometime this week. To the dismay of many Democrats, Attorney General William Barr will only be providing Congress with the same redacted version the public will see.
The report could spark new questions over President Trump's conduct and reveal potentially embarrassing details. The Attorney General has already released his own 4-page summary of the nearly 400-page report. The president has not been exonerated of obstruction of justice, but the White House continues to say that he has been. For more on this, we want to bring in CBS News White House correspondent Paula Reid. She's with us from the White House, and Politico Playbook co-author and reporter Daniel Lippman, who's also joining us from Washington. Hello, guys.
Good morning.
All right. So, Paula, we're going to start with you. Basically the question that everyone is asking is, what can we expect from the Mueller report? We know it's going to be redacted. He gave us a series of categories in which redactions could fall into. I'm a little concerned, Paula, that when it comes to ongoing investigations, we're going to see a lot of stuff redacted because, I mean, how many ongoing investigations are there? At least 2 hands, right? At least, maybe more.
Yeah. No, that's true. No, don't be too concerned. It's important to protect the integrity of those investigations, not tip anyone off to target sources or methods. But what we're really going to look for in this redacted report is any new information, specifically new information relating to this question of obstruction of justice. In the letter that we got from the Attorney General, there was a suggestion from Special Counsel Robert Mueller that most of the president's conduct related to obstruction happened publicly, but it was hinted that not all of it was public. So that's what we're looking for. What else happened? Was this related to the president's answers and his written questions to the special counsel? Does this have to do with something that the White House counsel's office shared? That is what I am looking for first and foremost as I start to blow through all these pages as soon as they're released.
All right. So what are the president and the White House most interested in finding out, Paula?
Well, anything that could have political traction. They seem pretty confident right now after Special Counsel Robert Mueller found no collusion. Attorney General William Barr cleared the president on this question of obstruction, and even last week said at one point that he believes there was spying on the Trump campaign. He eventually walked that back a little bit, but he was echoing a repeated line of attack the president has issued to undermine the legitimacy of this investigation. So even if there is any damaging evidence against the president, it's going to be pretty easy for the president and his allies to punch back, largely thanks to Attorney General William Barr.
You know, here's the thing about this redacted version of the report that's coming out, Daniel, is that, after the 4-page sort of conclusion was released, people really started to wonder whether or not William Barr was working more as a political operative than apolitical. We started to hear these reports about people who worked on the Mueller investigation saying they supplied him with summaries that he chose not to use. So how concerned are people about this redacted version of the Mueller report being non-biased?
That's a huge concern for Democrats and for activists who are concerned about protecting our elections from foreign interference and preventing this type of effort from happening again, frankly. And so they view Barr as not an entirely honest broker, given that his summary was so short and really did not incorporate much information from the Mueller report as Mueller's investigators kind of leaked afterwards. And so they kind of view him as if he's willing to shade the summary in one way, then he could be over-redacting this final report. And so that's why Democrats are saying that it's very important that at least Congress get to see the full Mueller report and the underlying evidence and no redactions. And then they can kind of come to their own conclusion about what Mueller found and if Barr is hiding anything that he should let release into the public.
Yeah, it's a fine line that Democrats have to walk, Daniel, as you know, if they focus too much on the report. But as the summary that was provided by Bob Barr quoted the report saying that it does not exonerate President Trump. Meanwhile, the president is saying complete and total exoneration. He says that all the time. So they have to walk this fine line without looking as if they're focusing so much on this report to the extent of everything else. And on the other hand, there are some really important questions that have not yet really fully been answered based on that summary the Attorney General provided.
Yeah, Democrats kind of point out that Republicans are going overboard when they say total exoneration, when in fact, you know, the Mueller, we haven't read the Mueller report, so we have no idea what it's going to say. And so there could be, I talked to White House aides over the weekend and on Friday, and they said, of course, there's going to be something that's embarrassing or multiple things for the president that the Democrats and the media will jump on. And so the fact that they're conceding that point shows that it might not be full exoneration, and that President Trump is going over his skis, and that he should be more careful. But from a PR point of view, you can totally understand why he's trying to get ahead of their narrative before any derogatory facts come out.
But still, Daniel, you know, what people have noticed is that the president, after, you know, sort of pounding his fist about no exoneration for a few days, maybe a weekend or so, very quickly pivoted to the border and immigration. And there was this, you know, this article that floated this idea of getting migrants and sending them to sanctuary cities. And, you know, he could have just ignored it because the White House said, look, it was just a suggestion. But instead, the president chose to double down on it and make this part of the national conversation. Sarah Sanders was asked about it. I want to play some sound and get your reaction.
And Democrats have stated time and time again, they support open borders, they support sanctuary cities. So let's spread out some of that burden and let's put it in some of those other locations if that's what they want to see happen and are refusing to actually help fix the problem. The president likes the idea, and Democrats have said they want these individuals into their communities. So let's see if it works and everybody gets a win out of it.
You know, Paula, you got to wonder if they deliberately pivoted to this conversation because they are concerned about what might be revealed once the Mueller report is put forth to the public. But anyhow, what can you tell us about this reaction to that new report about immigration?
The White House says this is still on the table, and they have a lot of reasons to want to keep it on the table. Not only could this idea, which is extremely controversial, not only does this enrage the president's rivals, it also galvanizes his base. This is part of his effort to keep immigration front and center ahead of 2020. Now, originally, they said that this idea had been suggested and dismissed because of logistical concerns. But last week, when the president appeared to embrace this, now the White House said it's back on the table. They're thinking about how to make this work. But to put my lawyer hat on for a second, I mean, the idea of moving asylum seekers from detention, dropping them into sanctuary cities for what the president has suggested is really political retaliation that is highly unlikely to get a green light from the courts.
Paula, Reid, and Daniel Lippman, thank you guys.